Look at this game. It looks cute, right? Not really looking like a disturbing horror game, but Crow Country doesn't shock you with gory visuals or conventional traumatic sequences. It hides its story within its chunky PS1 style visuals, leaving just enough hints to evoke a sense of dread. Then it leaves you alone with this feeling, in case you needed additional thoughts to keep you up at night.
Era un día normal, yo estaba caminando por la calle y me encontré con un CD del Michael Jackson, lo tomé y me fui a...
Crow Country quickly became one of my favorite horror games because it's so unassuming, yet giving you existential nightmares. It's funny, and then it's sad.
Oh no. Oh, come on.
It's frantic, and then it's slow. No one is really the good guy, and no one is really the bad guy. Except for Marvin. Fuck Marvin. But best of it all, it leaves you with the feeling of wanting more. Especially after the ending, which is phenomenally done. But don't worry, although this is a horror game, there's literally nothing scary about it. Why are you guys just lying? Ah! What was that? Ah! Ah! Oh my god. Ah! Ah! Oh my god. Ah! Oh god, oh my god. That was a lie. I pissed my pants playing this game, which is of course another lie. Got you a second time. Better get used to it because this game lies to you. This game leads you astray with false claims. In fact, the very first spoken lines are misleading. If anyone asks, my name is Mara. Mara Forrest. Special Agent Forrest. That's me, don't forget. Don't mess it up. Okay, it's an odd choice of words to introduce yourself. We come to a stop in a parking lot in front of a rusty gate. There is already a parked car there, but it is covered in trash and must have been here a while. On the hood of our car lies a police file from which we can learn why we are here. We are looking for a certain Edward Crow, a company and landowner that has been reported missing by his daughter. And then we encounter our first puzzle, which almost broke my mind. Missing persons report. Name Edward Crow. Wait. 75 meters? Ah, okay, no, never mind. He's 75 and he's male. Alright, I got you. Okay, I think I have to clear something up here. I do know how to pronounce the word crow, okay? But when I played the game for the first time, I recorded myself and I read everything out loud, and on a couple of occasions I do say crow instead of crow. But I have a good explanation for that, okay? You see, I was reading a Dungeons and Dragons book at the time, and there's this dark elf race called Drow, which is written in the same way as crow. I don't know, and I apparently I messed things up in my head, and I intuitively said crow, and I don't even know why there's a difference in pronunciation, and it kind of feels like a deliberate trap for non-native speakers to make them aware of their hubris to make videos on the internet in a language that they don't natively speak. Now I feel a little silly. Not gonna lie. The entry gate is locked. A huge padlock is holding it shut. But if we walk around our car, we can access the trunk, retrieve ammo, and reload our pistol that we brought with us, apparently. We carefully aim at the padlock, shoot, and the padlock explodes into 1,000 pieces. We can now enter Crow Country. We find a main entrance to a theme park, but it is in a desolate state. Garbage everywhere. The ticket booths are boarded up and the faint sound of the theme park music can be heard. We find a flashlight lying on the ground, which can now illuminate our way as we walk further into the abandoned theme park. We are completely alone. Where once must have been a soundscape of laughter and joyful chattering of visitors is now nothing more than our own footsteps and the occasional buzzing of malfunctioning light bulbs. On a central square, we find a giant crow statue. This must be the park's mascot. If we take a closer look around the park, we find that we can interact with the environment. Like, if we kick the vending machine, we get an antidote. Or if we rummage through the trash cans, we can find what? A subscribe button? Sorry, that must be for you.
¿Quieres?
Heading further into the park, the atmosphere changes from ominous to threatening. We enter Fairy Tale Town, one of the 3 themed areas of Crow Country. As soon as we enter this area, we find pages of newspapers sprawled across the floor.
What's that? 2106. I think it's written in blood. Is this a code for something?
Luckily, we can test out our theory on a keypad on a nearby wall. But, there is no key for the 0. And let me go ahead and tell you that all of the keypads in the entire park don't have a 0 on them. So what is this string of numbers supposed to mean? Well, no time to contemplate as we find a man further ahead. Slumped against a barrel, he is visibly wounded.
They attacked me. All I wanted was proof. What's your name? Arthur Moore. I just needed a clearer photo.
We learn that Arthur came here to capture a clearer photo of the creature that attacked him, intending to submit it to a cryptoid magazine, like a magazine that deals with Bigfoot sightings and Loch Ness sightings and stuff like that, which I didn't know, but it is apparently called cryptozoology, or probably, most possibly pronounced in another way, but I'm gonna call it cryptozoology. Let me continue with the script now. And we can even find a Polaroid that he shot shortly before he received a mighty good thrashing. It shows 2 figures, horribly mangled, but we can't really make out any details. Now we have a choice to make. Either give him one of our healing items or just walk away and don't interact with him anymore. This decision does have actually consequences in the end, but for now, we give Arthur a health pack.
What did you say your name was? Mara.
Wait, no, Special Agent Mara Forrest, FBI. Just Mara. Okay. I mean, it's your choice. We move Arthur to our car and return to his barrel to find a note on the spot where he just sat. It says Tree Lady 3184. So this must be the code to the keypad that we just used. And sure enough, after we enter the code, the statue turns around and we can talk to her.
I think I remember. You have to talk to her?
Remember? Wait, isn't this your first time here, Mara? Anyway, we need to find a specific phrase that we can say to the Tree Lady to get access to wherever this will lead. In the vicinity of the Tree Lady is a staff corridor that we can go in. But as soon as we enter, something is off. The music changes, it is very dark, and we hear moaning. And after a few steps into the corridor, we see a crooked figure stumbling towards us with outstretched hands and missing skin. It's the things from Arthur's photo. These are guests, the basic enemy type that slowly creep up on you and then try to touch you, which hurts. Badly, in fact. In my first encounter, I panicked, took 2 hits and then bailed out of the room to heal. But this encounter gives us our first taste of combat. But defending ourselves is easier said than done because the isometric view, which changes depending on how you move the camera, makes aiming in a stressful situation really tough. Additionally, the erratic movement of the enemies lets them dodge your shots, which is very uncool. Thankfully, you can save a bit of ammo when you consider your surroundings, because most of the time, the rooms where fights take place have things like bear traps in them, which can harm you if you don't pay attention to them, but it can also make your fight way more easy. After we have dealt with the guys and cleared the corridor, we enter the lounge, the first safe room. Wait. Is this a fire? Oh, hell yeah!
Staring into the flames, I feel something. It's a curious mixture of hope and dread. Maybe everything will be okay, and maybe it won't.
Thank you, Mara, for these comforting yet very ominous words. This is where we can save the game. In here, we also find a staff memo with the correct phrase for the tree lady. We tell the tree lady what she wants to hear and enter the fairy pond, which looks actually rather dry. On a plaque nearby, we read something about finding the truth in a reflection, and behind a curtain we find a pressure gauge which we need to balance using a nearby valve to flood the pond with water, which then allows us to see a special something in the reflection, a target. Now, if we think real hard and take into account the words of the plaque, we can surmise with our gigantic brain that we have to shoot not the actual target, but the place where the target would be on the surface. And sure enough, once we shoot the tree on the right spot, the target appears, and from the pond ascends the fairy. We obtain the bronze key. This is how the puzzling and, frankly, the progression in this game works. Every puzzle is interconnected, and we need to find items to solve them. For example, in the room next to the pond, there's a swan boat ride, but the controls are all broken, and to do anything here, we need an egg-shaped object, which we can find in a haunted mansion in form of a gem, which is hidden in a painting of a demon or devil. I don't want to judge here, but to get to that gem, we need to adjust the time of the nearby clocks to the correct time. But to do that, we need a crank, which we can find in a staff corridor in a safe, which requires a code, which we can find on a gravestone in a crypt. With the gem in hand, we can then control the swan boat and get it near a hole in the fence to reach the item that is wrapped around the swan's neck, which turns out to be a machine chain. This machine chain can be used to get a mask, which we need to open up a path to the trident. And this goes on and on and on, you get the gist. And on our way between the puzzles, we find more and more clues on what happened at Crow Country. And talking of puzzling, why is there a crate full of gold ore in this theme park? And why is it being shipped to Brazil? With the bronze key, we can enter the haunted hilltop, the horror-themed area of the park. In a corner, we see a woman standing in front of a reinforced door, knocking relentlessly. Why is there even a reinforced door in a theme park? I get that this leads probably to more behind-the-scenes rooms that visitors aren't supposed to see, but I don't know, Q barrier belt would have been enough, don't you think?
What are you doing? Trying to get through this door. Oh, right. Is it locked? Obviously.
Good talk, Julie? She obviously can't get in, but doesn't really bother with us. But we can find a way into the room. If we go into the crypt, we find a path that leads right behind the reinforced door at the end of the room. Ah, Jesus. Holy shit, what the fuck are you? This game doesn't hold back with its jump scares. And every single one gets me. We reach an utility corridor from which we can lift the lock of the reinforced door and let the woman in. But again, look at this locking mechanism. What are they trying to keep out? Or keep in? After clearing the way for her, the woman walks right in and asks us to help her set something up for him to see. After we agree to help, the former break room changes into something more like an evidence display. The makeshift banner reads, "For the attention of Edward Crow." And if we have a look at the evidence, the picture becomes pretty clear. A newspaper article tells of an incident where a 15-year-old girl was injured in an accident at the Crow Country theme park. This led to lawsuits and the eventual closure of the park 2 years ago. So this is why the park closed. Another part of the evidence display is a photo of the girl that was injured, Elaine Marshall. As we can see, she has brown hair and green eyes. Do we know another person with green eyes? I'm generally asking, I don't know, please help. The most interesting part, however, is the medical report of Elaine Marshall, which states that whatever harmed her infected her with an unknown form of bacteria that still threatens her life. The last thing we can inspect is a business card of a certain Julie Barron, locally feared lawsuit attorney. Throughout our journey, we can find notification letters that tell that Edward Crow missed several court dates and failed to show up. Looks like Julie here is trying to get shit done for her client. One of the rooms adjacent to the utility corridor where we set up the evidence display with Julie is a sort of machinery room. From the looks of it, gold tubes are being delivered, crushed to pieces, and then combined with stones to get gold ore? Listen, I'm no expert in gold mining, but isn't it supposed to be the other way around? Whatever is going on here, I think it's safe to assume that this is no ordinary theme park. In the haunted hilltop, we can also find a haunted mansion. Okay. He's not real. Oh my god. Every time. Via a hidden passage behind a picture, we can make our way to the offices. And as soon as we enter, we hear a gunshot. If we enter the room from where the gunshot came from, we are greeted by a gruesome scene. A man is lying in the middle of the room, a gun right next to him and a puddle of blood underneath. From the looks of it, this man did the Saren from Mass Effect 1. He did the hacker from Deus Ex Human Revolution. He did the thing that this one guy does in this quest in Cyberpunk where you go to this war veteran who lost everything and then you talk to him and then you go out of the room and... Yeah, he did that.
Should I call the police?
Mara, you are the police! As for who this man was, we can interact with the TV nearby that gives us at least some answers.
This is a message for Edward Crow from Douglas Pike. Edward, we've been friends for over 30 years. You entrusted me with the running of your theme park, task I have relished. You have always shown me kindness and always paid me well for my work. However, I can no longer remain silent. Edward Crow, your crimes have not gone unnoticed, nor will your sins go unpunished. As for Elaine Marshall, I hope she never forgives us. None of us deserve it. Goodbye.
Just a few steps from Pike's office, we find a young woman hunched over in a corner. She feels very sick and has already barfed on the wall and floor, as we can clearly see. We can choose to give her one of our healing supplies, and when we do, she introduces herself. This is Natalie Crow, the daughter of Edward Crow and the one who filed the missing person report.
You filed a missing persons report, didn't you? Yes, I did. You were who they sent? Yeah, I'm Agent Mara Forrest. But you're so... What? What about the man I spoke to on the phone? Detective Harrison something? Detective Harrison James. He couldn't make it. Problem with his car. So they sent you instead. Yep.
Yeah, now that you mention it, Mara is indeed kind of small in comparison. Natalie is standing right next to Edward Crow's very own office, but he locked it by electrifying the door handle. So we need to find a way to turn that shit off. And on our way back from the haunted hilltop area, someone is waiting for us.
Are you a police officer? Police Detective Harrison James.
This is the police officer that spoke with Natalie Crow when she filed the missing person report. Ooh, it's kind of weird that this guy and Mara don't know each other, since Mara is here on behalf of him. And she even said to Natalie Crow that Detective James couldn't get here because of car issues, and now the actual Detective James tells us that someone slashed his tires? Huh. Curious.
Actually, Mara, maybe you can help me. I was supposed to meet up with a woman, Miss Natalie Crow. You haven't seen her around here, have you?
Natalie Crow? Let me guess. A blonde young woman, daughter of Edward Crow? The one that reported her father missing? This Natalie Crow? No, never seen her.
No idea, sorry.
After visiting Fairy Tale Town and Haunted Hilltop, the last area we need to investigate is the Ocean Kingdom. To get in, we need to have a certain item to crank this absolutely normal gate open, which consists of bloody spears. And that's not the only thing that this entry has in store for you. The Ocean Kingdom area is basically an underwater world. It has several water-themed rooms, like the submarine, where we can find a shotgun, which comes in very handy as new and stronger enemies show up, like these brutes, which the game calls lumbers, because they swing these pipes around. Or these little guys called goblins who charge at you. But the worst kind are the spindly-legged motherfuckers that just walk towards you. They don't do anything fancy, but every time they show up, this crackling noise plays and I just piss my pants. But if you play your cards right, you can use your environment to your advantage when fighting them. At the far end of Ocean Kingdom, we discover an old arcade. Standing by the other exit is a man. In a neat little detail, he reacts to our flashlight. This is Marvin Trumbull.
Why are you here? Are you an employee? No, but I do work with that. We're business partners.
Apparently Marvin came from overseas to pay Edward Crow a visit, although he doesn't want to tell us what kind of business he's working on with Crow. But he tells us that Crow is in the underground section of the park. It seems they did some rude excavation down there, whatever that might be. Before he leaves, Marvin tells us that the elevator to the underground can be activated in the office to the root excavation supervisor, Tolman. Right around the corner we can actually find Tolman's office, and there's also this weird wooden box in front of it.
Wait, dude, what's that box? You know what? I'm not gonna...
I should introduce myself. I'm Mara Forrest. I'm looking for... I like the purple. What is that? Dyed? Must be. Doesn't look like a wig. When you're finished talking about my hair, I think I might need your help. I'm looking for Edward Crow. Yeah, I bet you are.
Needless to say, Tolman is not very helpful, but at least we can activate the elevators that we found along the way that will give us access to the underground section.
Oh! The fuck?
Ah! Oh my god! Oh my god, what the fuck? After we recover from a heart attack, we go down the elevator and explore this fabled underground. The underground consists of several gateways which lead into rooms that are named after weekdays, but they are all closed, so we need to find a way to open them. But luckily, in a break room nearby, we find a lever that unlocks these doors. With the rooms now open, we can see that they inhabit machinery to harvest these green tubes. Giant buzzsaws and cranes cut off these roots piece by piece, but to what end? Well, in the next room, we'll get all the answers we seek. We can find Tolman and Marvin facing off and arguing. Tolman tells us that the inside of these roots are made of 24-karat gold, the purest form of gold. So pure, in fact, that it doesn't appear like that in nature. So it's obvious why they are farming these roots now. They want to sell gold and get rich. But the problem is that the gold is so pure that people are gonna get suspicious of where this gold comes from if you sell it like that. So they came up with a plan. Marvin was supposed to scout and buy an abandoned gold mine in Brazil. They would harvest the roots, cut up the gold and mash it into ore. That's what the machine is for that we saw. Then they would ship it to Brazil and mine it there, and then do what you would normally do when you mine gold ore. That would explain the crate full of gold ore that we found early in the game. This process gives them a clean source for the gold, and no one gets suspicious about it. But then the Brazilian authorities eventually got suspicious about it when they inspected the ore because the earth didn't fit to any Brazilian turf. So now Marvin fled back to Crow Country.
So, at least before you got into trouble, you must have been making a lot of money. You and Crow? You could say that. Then why come back here at all? Why not just go and live on a desert island or something?
They went and seized my assets, didn't they? All of it. It's all frozen unless I show my face in court. Answer all their lovely questions.
Oh, well, let me guess. Crow kept his name off the paperwork. So he gets to keep his share of the money? Is that why you really came back? To make sure Crow gets dragged down with you?
She really sussed you out. Only took her 2 minutes.
So now we know what's up with all this gold business and how Crow became so rich, but that doesn't explain the monsters walking around in the park and what happened to Edward Crow. Talking of Edward Crow, in one of the rooms in the underground we find a weird-looking apparatus that we can destroy. This is what kept the electricity running, and now that it's destroyed, we can enter his office. The first thing we see is a projector that is running through some slides. On closer inspection, we can see that Crow categorized the monsters that roam the park, so he does know about them and even studied them. Apparently, he's hiding right now in his lab that is located in the middle of the underground. But of course we can't go there right now, so we have to specifically enable the elevator that leads to that lab. And for that, we have to flip a switch in a control room adjacent to Crow's office.
Okay, so, Oh god!
What? Oh my god. Well, we go to the central square where the elevator is supposed to be. Turns out the crow statue in the middle of the square is hiding a little secret behind it. But we can't just access it. Come on now, nothing is easy in this game. We have to slot in a battery to move the crow to access this elevator, which leads us to the lab. So, after following a hint from a staff memo that we found, we know that the mermaid animatronics from a certain 7 Seas ride have the battery that we seek. Problem is, we can't start the ride on our own because we need to sit in a boat at the same time, and so we need another person to help us out. But luckily, in a room literally next to the ride, we find Julie that can help us with our problem.
Are you ready to go? Yeah, I think so. I can't guarantee this will be safe. Should I start the ride? The white whale is blocking the boat. I remember it right, he's supposed to move out of the way, but I think it's done manually from a control panel. I wonder why Julie didn't press the button.
Oh god. Something happened to Julie? Yes. After retrieving the battery from one of the mermaids, we discover a path behind the control room where Julie launched our ride. There, we stumble upon Julie's glasses and a splatter of blood on the floor. The nearby vent cover has been violently blown outward. Piecing these clues together, we can only conclude that something emerged from the vents and forcibly dragged Julie back into them. And the bad news don't stop there. We come out of the 7 Seas ride and find that the formerly bright room is now covered in darkness. Monsters are just lying around. What happened to them? The answer to this question followed quickly. Why are you guys just lying there? Ah! What was that? The fuck was that? Oh, is somebody shooting? Somebody was shooting and denying us access to the central square. Someone doesn't want us to be there. But we can go the long way around, through the staff hallways and over Fairytale Town, and on our way there we notice that the number from the beginning is now written on the walls everywhere. 2106. And we still haven't figured out what that's supposed to be. Eventually, we reach the central square without a bullet wound. We slot on the battery and the big crow starts to march on, giving us access to the elevator behind it. And once we're down, we make a horrible discovery. Oh no. Oh, come on. No. Harrison James is dead, but he wasn't killed by the monsters. He was shot. I didn't go into detail with his character, but he was this charmingly incapable and cowardly, yet conscientious police officer who got robbed by a teenager. That's why his death kinda got me. As we just heard, Mara holds this little eulogy for him by reading out his police ID, and if we check the ID in our inventory, we can see that our ID that we carried around all game long was actually Harrison's. We can even see how Mara modified it to make it her own. It might come as a surprise to you, but Mara wasn't really a federal agent. She stole Harrison's ID and police files and even sabotaged his car so he wouldn't be able to make it to Crow Country. And to what end? We don't know yet. But I really like that throughout the game we receive all these little hints that point towards Mara not really being from the police. Like that her first reaction to Douglas Pike's body was like, I need to call the police. Or that every time we meet a new person, she just says her first name. Instead of like, Officer Mara Forrest, Special Agent, FBI. Or like something like that, her name and rank. It's more like a teenager would introduce themselves. But the best thing is, with this revelation in mind, the monologue at the beginning can have a different meaning depending on how you read it. You can read it in an assertive way, like I did at the beginning of this video, or you can read it like Mara talks to herself to remind her of the role she needs to play. With more questions answered by the minute, we move on to Edward Crow's lab, but not without noticing the grubby old duffel bag right next to Harrison's body. Wait a minute, we know who that belonged to. It's the bag from Marvin, the guy who fled the Brazilian government. And sure enough, after we move on, we find Tolman blocking access to an iron gate on a walkway that I'm pretty sure doesn't adhere to any OSHA regulations. Marvin comes in and holds us both at gunpoint. He wants to clear his tracks. Tolman tries to talk Marvin into sparing Mara, but to no success.
She knows way too much. You think she won't rat us out? Hell, she already tried. She was getting real chatty with that pretty boy detective.
I tried to stop him from coming. I kept telling him to leave.
Well, he didn't leave, did he? And neither did you. And now it's too late. What was that?
No idea.
Bullshit. If this is some sort of trick,
Where am I?
Just in time, Julie pops out of the vent, pushing Marvin off the walkway, but saving our lives. She tells us that she has indeed been dragged into the vents by the monsters, but they didn't kill her.
They're angry. They don't want to kill us. They're trying to communicate.
With that, we send them both to look after Natalie Crow and Arthur, who's still chilling in the car. After they're gone, we can finally go through that gate. And then we make the long way down to Edward Crow's lab.
I'm searching and I'm melting to you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you.
We reach a dimly lit room. Right next to the ladder is a photo wall with every character we met along the way. Those who are still alive, and under a white line, those who already died. And this wall will change if we never talk to certain NPCs. If we ignore Natalie, she will not show up on this wall. On the opposite side of the photo wall is a big reinforced door with an intercom panel. We activate it and try to talk to Crow.
Mr. Crow? I'm here. I'm in your lab.
Hello, Elaine.
And suddenly, Mara's name tag in this conversation changes to Elaine, her real name. We've been playing as the girl who's been injured and who is hospitalized for the unknown illness all along. I really like how they reveal this twist to us. I mean, if you pay attention to how Mara, or rather Elaine, talks to people and acts throughout the game, it becomes pretty obvious. But I still like that it's just the greeting from Edward Crow and a change in the UI that changes the identity for us, the players, as well. Like, Elaine can't or won't keep up this facade any longer. And to complete the transformation completely, we can find a small shower cabin in a corner and wash the purple dye out of her hair.
Open the door.
Will. First, please pick up the glass vials I've laid out on the counter.
Why?
Please.
Fine.
We pick up the vials and enter the chamber beyond the gate. A grotesque figure is waiting for us, sitting in a room that is illuminated by a green glowing pool with the roots sticking out. This is Edward Crow. He has been infected with something that left him weak and in this sorry state.
Elaine Marshall.
Edward Crow.
Tell me, how are you feeling?
Bad. Tired. They can't get rid of my infection. It's been getting worse.
Good. I must say I'm relieved they let you out of the hospital long enough to...
They didn't. I escaped.
See, really are determined. And all this because you want to kill me, I assume?
No. I came because I want to tell you something, face to face. I need you to know.
Go on.
Mr. Crow, I'm going to die from this infection. We tried everything. Nothing works. It's going to kill me.
This is the reason why Elaine came to Crow Country in the first place. She wanted to see Crow and tell him face to face that she is dying from a disease that she contracted by the accident 2 years ago, after which the park closed shortly after.
You understand where we are right now?
You call it the pool?
Correct. Protruding from its depths, the 7 roots.
What's left of them? The years of you cutting them up, harvesting them for gold.
Exactly right. Elaine, look at me. Listen. The pool is a gateway. And the guests are human beings who attempted to travel through it and emerged here.
Why do they look so... Why are they so messed up?
Because I've spent the last 10 years dismantling the mechanism of that gateway.
Understand?
The pool still works, technically. But thanks to me, it is severely malfunctioning. You see, the roots are a kind of calibration antenna, necessary to accurately and safely transport those who travel through the pool.
We have been killing humans all along. What we perceived as monsters were actually people, heavily mutated and maimed by traversing through a malfunctioning portal. Unbeknownst to them and Edward Crowe, harvesting gold from the roots began to disassemble this portal. I imagine it like a faulty teleporter that breaks you down and reassembles you incorrectly. As more roots were cut down, the guests resembled humans less and less. They evolved from little goblin-like creatures to spindles and brutes until they no longer looked human at all, just pulsating puddles of flesh.
Mr. Crowe, where are they coming from? The guests? What's on the other side of the pool?
You understand now how my excavations have been causing the mutations of the guests. Also understand the mutations have been getting worse as I cut down more of the roots. The beings that emerge from the pool now, they barely resemble humans at all. Most of them cannot walk, let alone speak. But that first guest who emerged from the pool all that time ago, he was the least mutated. Yes, Elaine, he could speak. Just barely. He told me who he was and why he had come. I wrote it down, word for word, on a little piece of paper. Then I went back to harvesting the roots. No subsequent guests were capable of speech. Hold out your hand.
What?
Take it.
The first of the guests was the least mutated. He could speak and described to Edward Crowe his origin and purpose. Crowe documented it all on paper. If we inspect the piece of paper, we learn why these people dared to make this journey through the portal.
2106. Uninhabitable. Ruin. We come. 1988. Last chance. Warn. Stop. Change.
The guests are refugees. Refugees of a world that lies in ruin. 2106 was referring to the year 2106 all along. The guests have been drawing these numbers everywhere to warn us, since they were unable to speak. They have come to warn us of a future that is so horrible that people willingly go through a portal that warps them 116 years in the past. Crowe kept this first guest in a holding cell room, the same one we can find in a corner of the park, and that 15-year-old Elaine discovered as well. This is where the accident occurred. The mutated, pain-crazed guest lashed out at Elaine, infecting her with an unknown disease they had brought through the portal.
Elaine, do you remember when your family asked me to pay your medical fees?
Yeah, they're holding you accountable since I was injured in your park. But you never paid them. A lawyer is trying to take you to court over it.
Yes. This was a deliberate decision on my part. Knowing the nature of your illness, I knew there could be no cure found at the hospital.
Wait.
There is a cure. Made one. I made one.
You... How?
I I had to reverse engineer it. I've been studying the highly infectious bacteria on the dead bodies of the guests. New kinds of bacteria that nobody knows about yet. It's been the problem. No surprise your doctors were stumped.
Those vials from your lab.
Yes, you have the cure on your person at this very moment. 5 vials, enough to cure 5 people.
5. Harrison and Marvin are dead. So that leaves you, me, Natalie, Tolman, Julie, and Arthur. That's 6 people. You didn't make enough vials.
You're wrong there. I shall not be taking the cure. My time is short. Before I die, I must look upon what I have wrought.
You're going through the pool? You'll be mutated. It'll kill you.
Fitting end. Perhaps, if I'm lucky, I may get a glimpse of what lies on the other side. I have one more thing to ask of you. If, for any reason, I re-emerge from the pool, I want you to kill me. But if I re-emerge, I will be in no shape to continue living. Do you understand? Goodbye, Elaine. I raise a glass to your future.
And with that request that one typically asks of a 17-year-old, Crow goes through the portal. The earth shakes and the roots detract into the pool, and then Crow re-emerges. Mutated beyond recognition, he starts to attack us. We have no choice but to fight, and this starts the final boss level. Eventually, we do enough damage to him, which prompts him to swim to the edge of the pool, and we can speak to him one last time.
Shut up. I don't want to know.
He wants to tell us what he has seen on the other side, but Elaine doesn't want to hear it.
Yeah, okay. Staring into the flames, feel something. Curious mixture of hope and dread. Maybe everything will be okay. Maybe it won't.
This ending is awesome. We are left with so many feelings. I love this ending because it's so ambivalent. Yes, we survived, but are we now to live in a doomed world? Yes, we survived, but Harrison James and so many time travelers did not. And some of them died by our hands. And so did Edward Crowe, the one who arguably caused all of this, but he tried to make amends by the end and even saved our lives. And even saved the lives of those who knew the origin of the guests. Some of them live on. Some of them have been so ridden with guilt that they chose another way out. Edward Crowe's death is certainly mourned, but what did he see when he went through the portal? We will never know. And I love that. And for all our efforts that night, we get a B. Only, come on! Crow Country is awesome. I loved playing this game. But do you know what I didn't love? playing this game, which you need to have a look at right now. It's really funny. Take it from the guy who wrote all the jokes.